Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question and I want you to be really, really honest with yourself when you answer. Have you ever looked at the person you're in a relationship with and thought to yourself, this cannot be all there is? Have you ever looked at them and thought, this cannot be God's best for me? Have you ever asked yourself, why am I still here? What am I getting out of this? Why do I put up with this? Like deep down, you know you're accepting less than what you deserve, but you stay anyway. Hoping, waiting, maybe even settling. If any of those resonated with you, if they hit a nerve, just know that you are not alone and that this video might actually be the wake-up call that you need. Today, we're going to be talking about how to stop settling in relationships. And I like to call it how to stop settling for crumbs. Because ultimately, that's exactly what you're getting. Crumbs. If you're new here, my name is Trinity and I am pretty much your go-to girl for all things self-improvement. So whether you're trying to level up mentally, physically, or emotionally, I make content for you. Now, before we get into it, I want to give a little disclaimer because there's always someone in the comments trying to pop off whenever we talk about something like this. There's always somebody like, well, nobody's perfect. You gotta learn to stick and stay. You gotta learn to compromise, blah, 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 blah. No relationship is perfect. And yes, we all know that that's very true, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about being in a relationship with a great person who loves you the right way and just being greedy and curious, wondering if there's more outside of what God has already given you. We ain't talking about that. I'm talking to the girls who are really settling for crumbs. The girls who are settling for the bare minimum. Inconsistent attention that leaves you confused, anxious, and constantly questioning your worth. I'm talking to the girls who are in relationships with what a lot of people like to call narcissists. I'm talking to the girls who are constantly being mistreated, constantly being cheated on. If you're still trying to figure out whether or not that's you, are you constantly justifying someone's behavior? Are you emotionally drained but just staying because you just hope it'll get better? Are you afraid to walk away because you don't want to be alone? Are you afraid to walk away because you don't want someone else to have him? Are you only still in your relationship because of history? Are you more invested in potential than who you actually have in front of you right now? I felt the need to create this video, although I've already kind of made videos similar to this, because this is one of the most asked questions that I receive here on YouTube, on Instagram. The girls are always DMing me or commenting on my videos asking me how to get over a breakup, how to finally leave their partner who they're not happy with, how to stop settling for less. And sometimes I want to just say, you just gotta do it. Like, it seems like such common sense, but it's really not. And honestly, these are the type of questions I used to ask. This is the type of stuff that I used to search on Google, because when you're going through a breakup, it really feels like the end of the world. Or when you're in a situation that you know is not meant for you, it does feel like the end of the world sometimes. And it does tend to feel like it's a lot more complex than it actually is. So let's talk about it, because honestly, although I receive the question a lot, I never get tired of answering it. Because one of my favorite things is helping women to find their power when they're in a situation where they feel powerless, or when they're in a situation where they just feel worthless. There's no better feeling than coming back from something like that. And as someone who has done it plenty of times, of course, I'm here to help the girls. So first, let's talk about why we settle. There are plenty of reasons why we settle for less than what we actually deserve. I think it's safe to say that most of the time when women settle in relationships, we know that we deserve more. So it's not a question of whether or not you know better. The question is, why aren't you actively trying to get better? A lot of the time, the reason is fear of loneliness. There are a lot of women who don't want to go through that period of possibly not having anyone, not being in a relationship, not dating, not talking to anyone, not having that company all the time, that quality time. A lot of people don't want to go through that. They're willing to stay in an unfavorable situation just because they don't want to be alone. And you have to get to the point where you value your peace more than you fear loneliness. Another reason why we settle is because a lot of us struggle with loyalty. You will not be valued more for holding someone down when they treat you like trash. We gotta stop making struggle love a thing. I used to purposely only deal with projects. It's funny because I was just talking to someone about this the other day. I only wanted to deal with men who I had to fix up a little bit. I never wanted to deal with men who had most of their stuff together. And of course, no one is perfect. But there's a big difference between dating someone who is just not perfect and someone who is literally a project. Someone you have to build up, fix up in order for them to actually be your ideal person. You feel like you have to fix up certain things in that person because you really don't think you deserve someone or can have someone who actually has their stuff together. A lot of women feel like they gotta get it out the mud with a man for him to actually love and cherish and respect her, when really you kind of get the opposite. Struggle and love are not synonymous. You can have love without struggle. Yes, you have to go through things, but y'all know exactly what kind of struggle we talking about, so let's not even play. I don't know who needs to hear this, but you don't need to be dragged through the mud in order to prove that you love someone. You don't have to take somebody back after being cheated on 1,000,000 times just to prove that you love them, just to prove that you're down for them. No, 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 no. We are losing the plots. And then another reason why we settle, one that I know everyone has probably heard 1,000,000 times: low self-worth. Most people settle because they don't believe they deserve more. Like I said before, it's usually not a matter of like whether or not we know we deserve better. Most of the time, we be knowing. You're probably watching this right now and know that you deserve better. Otherwise, you wouldn't have even clicked on the video, considering the title and the thumbnail. You know it, but you're just not acting on it because you don't believe that you actually deserve that better that you have in mind. At the end of the day, you train people how to treat you. Constantly giving your all to someone who gives you the bare minimum is literally telling that person, this is enough. What you're giving me is enough. It's okay. It's fine. I'll take this. When in reality, that's not the case. If you're not new to my channel, you know I have to make a Tony Gaskins reference. He always says, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you demand. We all deserve for someone to be faithful to us. We deserve for someone to be gentle with us. We deserve for someone to be kind to us. But at the end of the day, if you don't demand that, if you don't demand respect, people are only really going to meet you where your demands are. So if your standards are down here, if your demands are down here, if your self-respect is down here, 9 times out of 10, this is where you're going to be met. Nobody's going to come into your life, and we're not even just talking romantic relationships. Like, we're just talking period. The average person is not going to come into your life and raise your bar for you. If you act like it's okay for a man to drag you through the mud, that's exactly what he's gonna do. Because why would he not? I mean, let's be real. Let's be so for real. And that doesn't always have to look like super duper dramatic disrespect, like outlandish crazy cheating. It doesn't always look like that. I think this covers a bunch of different things, but I always use this reference. Think about how you are on your job. When you first got your job, you probably went in there on your best behavior, doing all the things until you realize there are a few things you can get away with not doing. At some point you realize you don't have to perform at 100%. You can perform at 80% and nobody's really going to say anything. So you perform at 80%. You're also not going to go on a job doing things that are not in the job description. Like if your boss doesn't require certain things of you, you're probably not going to be doing it. Who wants to do extra just because? That's how men, and I'm not even going to just say men, that's how people in relationships operate for the most part. You literally have to demand respect. Nobody's doing the most when they don't have to. We have to remember that men are human. Again, they're not about to raise your bar for you. If the bar is in hell, they keeping it in hell. Okay, so how do you stop settling for the crumbs? First things first, you need to be so for real with yourself. You need to be honest with yourself. Be honest about what your needs are, what your non-negotiables are, what your standards are. Write them down and stand on them. I know I've said this so many times already, but you already know what you deserve. You know what's ideal for you. You know right from wrong. You know that what this person is putting you through is not what God wants for you. And when I say write it down, I really mean write it down with pen and paper. Write down what you want in a partner, how you want to be treated. If you want someone who is loyal to you, someone who is faithful to you, someone who prioritizes you, write that down. If you want someone who actually wants to spend time with you, write that down. If you want someone who's gentle with you, if you want someone who talks to you like they got some sense, write that down. And stop thinking about whether or not you're actually going to find it. Write it down. Number 2, I want you to become self-aware. I am a firm believer in the fact that there is always something you can do, something you can change about yourself to make your situation more favorable. Now, I'm not saying you need to change something about yourself to make the relationship you're in right now favorable. What I'm saying is there's something you can do. There's some type of inner work, some self-work that you can do, some self-development you can do so that you don't end up in a situation like that again. You really need to analyze what is attracting this type of person, especially if you find yourself in these same situations, if you find yourself dating the same type of person over and over again. Whether you want to admit it or not, there is something about you that is attracting that type of person. And there's something in you that actually kind of gets a thrill out of it. Something in you actually likes it a little bit. What is it? This might actually also take looking back at your childhood and any trauma that you may have gone through in your life. Sometimes what you experience early on in life makes you gravitate towards a certain type of person. I don't know all the science behind it, but oftentimes that's exactly what it is. And in this step, I also want you to analyze why you constantly accept the behavior that you know is not favorable. Like if this person is constantly dogging you out, they don't love you the way you need to be loved, they don't talk to you the way you want someone to talk to you, really think about why you stay. I talked about this briefly earlier in the video, but do you stay because you don't want to be alone? Do you stay because you don't want someone else to have this person? Do you stay because maybe you have a child or children with this person and you want your kids to grow up in a household with both of their parents? Are you staying because this person maybe pays all the bills and you're not really in the financial space to be able to pay your own bills? The only way you can shift and change your situation is if you know why you're making the decisions you're making. If it's financial, you might have to go stay with a family member who is willing to let you stay there while you get a job or save up some money until you can pay your own bills. If you're staying because you have a kid or kids with this person and you just really want the family to be together, you need to really analyze what it is that you want for your kids. Do you just want them to have their mom and dad in the same house, or do you want them to have a real family unit? Because you can give them a family unit with somebody else. Let's be so for real. I kind of want to make a separate video on this specific thing because I do feel like I get a lot of questions from moms who want to leave their kids dead. But I think a big thing that everyone needs to keep in mind is 9 times out of 10, you don't just want both parents in the same house with the kid. You want the ideal version of what that looks like. Mommy and daddy being happy together, mommy and daddy being so in love with each other and being that perfect example of love and happiness in a romantic relationship. That is what you want, not just a mom and a dad living in the house with the kids and mommy and daddy hate each other, or mommy and daddy don't actually love each other, daddy doesn't value mommy. You don't want that. If you're smart, you don't want your kids to see that. So if that's what you're getting, if this person does not care enough to make the situation better so that that can be the ideal situation, then why are you there? You're giving your kids something that they probably don't even want. They probably would rather mommy and daddy be happy apart than mommy and daddy be miserable together, making everybody else miserable. But I'm saying all this to say, you have to know why you are making the decisions you're making so that you can make the mindset shift or the financial shift or whatever shift you need to make to get in a better situation, to get in a more ideal situation. A lot of y'all use the excuse, oh, I love this person. And it's really not even just that. 9 times out of 10, this person is not treating you the way you need to be treated. You are staying for another reason, because that is most likely not love. It's not the idea of love that you have in mind. Next, it's time to reclaim your self-worth. I want you to get that same pen and piece of paper, and I want you to write down all of the limiting beliefs that you have concerning this dream partner, this dream relationship. What makes you feel like you can't have what you deserve? I'm not talking about why you stay with this person you're with. We're talking about the limiting beliefs that keep you from actually trying to get something better. Now, I talked briefly about how I used to only date men who I felt like were like projects. I never wanted to date men who had their stuff together. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that subconsciously I thought that a man who had his stuff together wouldn't want to be with someone like me. I felt like I didn't look like the girls who those guys went after. And I also had this belief that men who had their stuff together were never faithful. And I know that that is portrayed a lot like in the media and stuff, but that is not 100% true. All men are not the same, contrary to what you believe. Maybe that's one of your limiting beliefs. Maybe you feel like all men cheat. So what's the point of wanting to be with a faithful man? Maybe you come from a family of trash men. Maybe you have never met an honorable man in your life. Maybe all of your male friends treat their girlfriends like trash behind closed doors. So you might just feel like all men are the same. These are all limiting beliefs because they limit you from actually doing better. And it's important to do this when you're trying to reclaim your self-worth, because it helps you to really see how you actually feel about yourself. Again, a lot of these things are subconscious. You might not even realize you are thinking these thoughts until you sit down and force yourself to come up with what limits you from getting what you actually want. And that's why I want you to put it on paper. Once you do this, again, you'll be able to see exactly how you feel about yourself. And then and only then can you make the necessary changes in your life to become that person who deserves better. Granted, you deserve it in this very moment, whether you believe it or not. Because yes, we're gonna get into, taking better care of yourself and treating yourself like someone you love. But at the end of the day, even without all that, you deserve to be loved properly. But in order for you to really, really believe that, you have to become that person who in your mind deserves that. And sometimes you gotta work backwards. Like sometimes you may not believe it yet. You just have to do the work as if you believe it. Like treat yourself like someone who deserves that. Treat yourself like someone who is worthy of love. Again, if you're not new to my channel, you've heard everything I'm about to say before. But give yourself the things that you want from a partner. All the things you want that man to do that he's not doing, do it for yourself. Set the standard. Because once you start giving it to yourself, I promise you, I promise you, you are not going to let someone come into your life and give you less. And we're not just talking material things again. And I feel like I got to keep saying it because there's always someone who's like, everything is not about money, everything's not about stuff, because men can treat you well and not, you know, have all the money in the world. I understand that. I get that. But I mean, we can just talk about quality time. I say this all the time. If you don't want to spend time with yourself, if you don't like being alone and spending quality time with yourself, why are you upset with someone else for not wanting to spend quality time with you? I mean, yes, they should want to do it, but I mean, should they really? If you don't even like yourself enough to spend time with yourself? If your love language is acts of service, what acts of service can you provide yourself? What can you do for yourself on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly or quarterly basis that makes you feel good? We gotta stop thinking that everything we want and need has to come from an outside source. It does not. You can give whatever you want to yourself. The love that you get from other people should be an added bonus. If you have no confidence, if you don't think you're beautiful, if you don't think you're pretty, you need to work on that. You really need to focus on just building yourself up, especially being in the type of situation you're in or coming from the type of situation you just came from. Contrary to what you believe, you do not have to earn anyone's love through suffering. And when you start to really value yourself and love yourself and be confident in who you are, if someone comes into your life trying to make you suffer, you won't look at them like they crazy. I tell people this all the time, but that is literally the key. Like I always say this, confidence is the key to everything. If you want to level up anything in your life, you have to first become confident in who you are and increase your self-worth and really train your brain to believe that you deserve better. You can have better. Because I mean, hello, I give myself better every day. Why am I allowing you to come in my life and treat me like trash? It literally won't make any sense. And last but certainly not least, you gotta be willing to walk away. A man won't ever respect a woman who he thinks will never leave him. Point blank period. If a man knows that he can do whatever and you're never going to go anywhere, that is not going to go the way you want it to go. Again, a lot of y'all associate struggle with love, suffering with love. Someone making you go through the worst to prove that you're worthy of their loyalty or worthy of their love, their affection. That's not love. A man has to know that you have enough self-respect, enough self-worth, enough self-love, enough confidence, and enough common sense to leave him when he acting crazy. You gotta be willing to step. A man gotta know that you a stepper. And that don't necessarily mean that he's gonna do everything right just because he knows that you're possibly gonna leave. No, it just means that you have to have enough self-respect to walk away, period. I think the issue is a lot of women get attached to a certain outcome. Like I think when a lot of people hear, he's never gonna respect you unless you're willing to leave him when he does certain things. They think, okay, I gotta leave. And then once I leave, he'll come chasing after me and then he'll finally treat me right. No, you cannot be caught up on that outcome. Yes, in certain situations, maybe that does happen. Maybe that could possibly happen for you. But you cannot be so caught up on that particular outcome to the point where that's the only reason why you're leaving. Because he might not ever chase after you. And if he does, he might not ever treat you right when he gets you back. You should never be leaving to blame mind games. You should be leaving with the mindset of this situation is not serving me. This person is not treating me right. This person is not loving me correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead about my business until I find someone who can give me what I need. Don't worry about whether or not he'll come back. Don't worry about whether or not he's gonna act different. You need to be leaving for you, not for a certain outcome from him. And then again, gotta repeat this one. You gotta be okay with letting someone else have him, possibly. Like I know there are so many women watching this who don't want to leave their situations because they don't want the other woman to have him. And there are so many ways you can think about that. One being like, okay, just because you stay with him, that doesn't mean that she's not still going to have him, because she clearly already has him while you have him. I mean, if cheating is the issue in your situation, but even if cheating is not the issue and you just don't want to leave the man because you don't want him to end up with someone else, you don't want someone else to reap the benefits of all the seeds that you've planted in him or in that relationship. Sometimes that's just what it is, honestly. And I've gotten to the point where I'm actually okay with that because I am finally at a point where I know that what's for me is for me. So I don't want to hold on to something so tight that is not meant for me just to avoid someone else from having their blessing. I want my blessings. I don't want what's for someone else. So if I'm in a situation that does not benefit me, I'm not about to stay with that man just so no one else can have him. He clearly ain't doing nothing for me. He's not treating me the way I need to be treated. He's not loving me the way I need to be loved. Maybe he can do that for someone else, and if he does, then good for them. But that's gonna finally give me an opportunity to be with someone who actually can give me what I need. We have to stop being so attached to people and situations and history, because all that stuff is not always good. Sometimes it's possible to have too much history with somebody, like too much bad history. I know so many people who have been in relationships for 5, 10, 15 years, and there was more bad than good, but they holding on to that number like, oh my gosh, we've been together this long. Okay, what do you have to show for it? You really have to get to the point where you want what God wants for you. And God don't want you suffering. He don't want you being with a man who don't love you, a man who don't want to be with you, a man who doesn't choose you. I said this in another video and I'm gonna say it again today. Stop settling for crumbs. You deserve the whole loaf. You don't deserve no crumbs. You are not a dog. When you settle for crumbs, you're literally saying, this is all I can have. I don't know when I'm gonna get more. I don't know if I'm gonna get more. I don't know if there is more. So I'm gonna take this little bit that I can get. Like literally picture a dog sitting under a table while their master is eating and just getting whatever gets thrown on the floor, whatever falls from the plate, they want it. Imagine yourself actually doing that. Imagine you being under a table while your man is sitting in a chair feasting off a plate, and whatever he just drops on the floor is what you get. I know that probably hits home for a lot of y'all, and I know it's probably hard to hear, but sometimes that's what you need to make a change and to do better. I want better for all my girls, and I want y'all to want better for yourselves. It makes me so sad when I talk to women who stay in situations where they are not valued. And I know that it's because they don't value themselves, because if they did, they wouldn't tolerate half the things that they tolerate. Settling keeps you stuck, but choosing yourself is where the freedom begins. When you upgrade your standards, you upgrade your life. Don't ever forget that. If this video hit home, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and send this to someone who you think can benefit from it. Whether it be your friend, your sister, your cousin, co-worker, whoever. If you know someone who's settling, please send them this video. As always, I love y'all and I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.